In the Field updates on Market Journal are supported by the Nebraska Corn Board. So, right here, the first planter I saw rolling to the fields this past week was on Tuesday. So for some folks, it is now full speed ahead when it comes to the new growing season. But as we know, planting conditions are not the same across the board. In fact, they vary quite a bit from one area to the next. Market Journal's Bill Dodd takes a look at some of the potential challenges that corn producers might face as those planters are getting into the ground.
Corn and soybean producers gearing up for another planting season, field work is in full swing. However, every year producers make a large investment to grow the commodities we all depend on. That's why it's paramount for producers to make sure the soil they will be planting into is in good shape to break out the planters.
Everyone's concerned about the dry conditions and the drought. Yes, we've received moisture, thankfully, from that blizzard, and so it's helped our surface profile, but we're still not a full soil profile. And I don't know that much of Nebraska is. I don't know that for sure, but I just know for sure in my area of the state, as I've been taking soil samples, we're not there yet. So key things for being fit are making sure that for those who receive moisture, that it's not too wet to cause sidewall compaction when they're planting in their individual fields. Every field's a little bit different depending on tillage, residue, previous crop, and where they're at in the state too. There may be places also where we've got conditions that are dry, where that seed is going to be placed. So the key is trying to get that seed into good moisture, but not saturated conditions. We like to see corn at least at 2 inches, but Purdue University showed that we can plant corn as deep as 3.5. And we've had to do that the past couple of years with dry conditions in some parts of the state. So depending on the situation that your viewers are finding themselves in, that's the option for corn. Soybeans, I personally like to see soybeans still at 2 inches deep, but our university research shows 1.75 inches, so showed the best yield. So again, if you're thinking about dry conditions, for those producers planting into dry conditions, that is helpful, planting a little bit deeper, because if they're putting especially a pre-plant PPO herbicide on, if it's a dry condition and that gets watered in either from irrigation or rainfall, if it's shallow, that seed is shallow, it can cause that seed to imbibe that water and cause seedling damage too with some of those products. So those are all things to think about dry condition wise.
Beyond soil types and moisture profiles, a couple other things producers should be watching intently this time of year are soil temperatures and fine-tuning their planting depth.
Other things to think about for if the soil is fit include the soil temperatures. So this morning at 4 inches here in York, we were at 41 degrees. Still on the chilly side, even though we've got some warmer temperatures coming for highs, we still have lows that are pretty low, and so we're just going to have to watch the soil temperatures. For corn and soybeans, we do prefer to see a 50 degrees and warming trend of that soil temp. But I'm also okay as we look at the way that genetics have been for both corn and soybeans. If we're at a 45 degrees on a warming trend for the next 5 to 7 days, that can be a good position to plant in as well. Personally, I have seen in this area of the state, I kind of recommend planting our soybeans first. Once that soybean, and the reason for that is the soybean imbibes water very quickly. It imbibes 50% of its seed weight very quickly, which allows it then to go into what's called the osmotic stage, where it can just rest. If the soil temperatures go down to 35 degrees or so, that seed is able to just sit there for a little while, without being damaged, as long as it's not saturated. So that's why in my area of the state, we've seen kind of a switch to planting soybeans before corn, as well as the yield benefit of that.
One popular inquiry among crop producers deals with seeding rates. This could be an opportunity to save some money for some producers. However, any decisions on seeding rates should always be discussed with your local seed dealer.
And for corn seeding rates, we recommend that you talk with your seed dealers, because those hybrids just vary so much on what their curves are. But regarding soybeans, we just continue to find in heavier textured soils, so our silty clay loam soils, we've been able to drop 120,000 seeds per acre and aim for a final plant stand of 100,000 plants per acre. And we still, we've been doing this research since 2006. So every year we've had on-farm research studies, and still that's always the most, we don't see yield loss from that. And actually the most economical seeding rate is always 90,000, but I don't tell producers that they have to plant that. So, but it's a way as we think about economics right now, saving a little bit of money. So it's one place they can do that.
Dealing with current drought conditions could be a formidable challenge for many Nebraska producers at the moment. However, Nebraska Extension educators are on hand to help. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.